This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop.
Got it in
Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy.
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common
But
sense.
my homework is
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
Well, what a night. Very interesting to say the least. Very interesting. The turnout here in Michigan was not, really incredible. Not really over the top. But I've got some math here for you to share. Donald Trump, the winner on the Republican side. Big surprise. Bernie Sanders pulls out a big upset win over Hillary here in Michigan, even after Hillary's blatant pandering to Flint. I guarantee you Flint won't see Hillary anytime again soon. All the time and money and effort she spent here, got the debate brought here. Bernie Sanders comes out on top. John Kasich and Ted Cruz battled it out for second place here in Michigan. Ted Cruz nosing him out by about 0.5% in the final numbers. Ted Cruz, 24.92%. John Kasich, 24.3%. About 8,000 votes difference between those two. Kasich won a couple of counties. He won Kalamazoo County. He won Washtenaw County. And Ted Cruz picked up, 6 or 8 counties in the lower 2 or 3 in the UP. All the rest, and by some of them by dramatic margins of 20 and 30%, Donald Trump rules across Michigan. Yeah, so some counties literally 20 and 30% margins of victory propelled Donald Trump, easily to the victory. So there you have it. It was pretty close. In some places for Kasich and Cruz, but not close at all for Donald Trump. Okay, so he also picks up wins. Trump does in Mississippi and Hawaii. Ted Cruz won yesterday in Idaho. Hillary Clinton won by like 60 points in Mississippi. But the big win by Bernie Sanders here in Michigan, she was shown to be ahead in the polls by 25 points. 25 points. The Real Clear Politics average of the polls had her plus 21. Some polls had her with a far greater lead. So I don't know what to make of it. I can tell you this. The Republicans had, 1.2 million people vote, give or take. The Democrats had had less. I'll just put it that way, had less. Hillary only won in about, 8 or 9 counties. 8 or 9 counties, Hillary won statewide. She won Wayne County and Genesee County, the big keys. But in the end, not enough. As Bernie, his margins of victory were similar in some areas, winning by 40% in some places when you get up to the northern part of the state. 20, 30, and 40% margins of victory. It was, incredible margins in some places for Bernie Sanders. Other places tighter, but, if you're winning smaller counties by wide margins, it was enough for him to hold on and get it done, I suppose. In some places, like around Lansing, he won by double digits in Ingham County. So, that's key. In Washtenaw County, he won by double digits. So despite Hillary's wins in Wayne County, where she won by more than 20 points, or Oakland County, where she won by, 5, and Genesee County, where she only won by about 4. The big win for Hillary, of course, was Wayne County. Not enough to get her there. Let's hear a little bit from the candidates. Donald Trump holding one of those press conferences last night, and this time, if you missed it, he came with Trump steaks and Trump water and Trump wine and a Trump magazine to read while you were enjoying yourself. That was all in reaction, of course, to Mitt Romney trying to tear him down earlier. trying to tear him down earlier. But here's Donald Trump talking about what happened from Jupiter, Florida.
The Democrats are down 35%. They're down from what they were. We're up by 50% and even more than that. You're talking about millions of people. So I actually think it's the biggest story in politics today. And I hope that the Republicans will embrace it. Don't forget, we have Democrats coming over, very importantly. We have independents coming over, and they haven't done that ever, probably ever. And with all of these people coming over, we're going to have something very, very special. If I win and if I get to go against Hillary, polls are showing that I beat her. And some of the polls have me beating her very easily, because when you take advantage, we will take many, many people away from the Democrats, and we'll take many, many people away that normally go Democrat as independents. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that. We had people come over here who have never voted Republican, who have never even thought about it, and they came and they voted Republican. And I'll tell you another group of people that I've seen, and I'll be signing autographs after a speech, and we'll be talking to people. And I've had many, many people say, and it was a beautiful thing to hear it, Mr. Trump, I'm 67 years old. Many people. I'm 67 years old. I've never, ever voted before. I've never come close to voting before. This is the first time I'll ever vote. And that's so amazing. It's so amazing.
And so this has become kind of the norm, I guess, for Donald Trump after a big vote. So expect to see him certainly next Tuesday, which is Super Tuesday Part 2, if you will. Super Tuesday Part 2 coming next Tuesday, as places like Ohio and Florida and so forth go to the ballots. Now, when we come back, I'm going to take a chance to hear more from Bernie Sanders and his big upset win. Again, the big disappointment, I guess, for the evening might be with John Kasich. He came very close to getting a second-place finish, and, of course, he's banking on picking up his home state of Ohio next week on Super Tuesday Part 2. Now, here's what I'm thinking, though, and here's what I'm seeing, because right now Donald Trump's path to victory got clearer and cleaner. Marco Rubio had a horrible finish. He came in fourth place every place. I believe Marco came in fourth place in all four of the Republican contests last night. So not just Michigan, but fourth place in Mississippi and Hawaii and Idaho. Bad news, guys. If you're a Marco Rubio supporter, it's over. That party is over. He got 123,000 votes just over in Michigan yesterday. And got 9% of the vote. And that's it. But the Republicans, the key for the Republicans here is that they had more turnout by far than the Democrats. 300,000 more. I'm working the math here, but it looks like at least 250,000, 300,000 more Republicans voted yesterday than Democrats statewide. So big turnout. So it's a big turnout and this is a big problem for the Democrats if they don't have the enthusiasm going forward. We'll talk more about this. We're going to shake these numbers down and talk about Bernie's big win here and hear from him after the break on a Wednesday edition of the Steve Gruber Show.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
It's alright if you love me. It's alright if you don't.
Some exit polling I was hearing last night showed that Bernie Sanders was picking up as much as 35% of the black vote in Michigan, which would be quite a departure from where it has been historically for Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Hillary won the black vote in Mississippi she took 89% of the vote there, which is more in line with what she normally does and how she performs. But here's the point that I'm making, and I just heard somebody else say it again. I heard from a Trump supporter that if they hadn't voted for Trump, they would have voted for Bernie. It doesn't even make sense. It makes no sense at all. You're going for the rabble-rousing capitalist or the podium-beating socialist. These people are on the polar opposites of the world, politically speaking. But that's the way it is. And the fact of the matter is Donald Trump is pulling in these Democrats. I don't think that Bernie's pulling in many Republicans per se, but he's pulling in people, young people who don't like what they see. Anyhow, when it looked like Bernie was going to win last night, he came out, he made a few comments before it was actually finally called. But here's Bernie Sanders on his win in Michigan. Clip 2, go.
We are in the midst of a very tight race. It is not clear yet who will win this election here in Michigan. But I just want to take this opportunity to thank the people of Michigan who kind of repudiated the polls that had us 20, 25 points down a few days ago, who repudiated the pundits who said that Bernie Sanders was not going anywhere. And I want to thank the many thousands of volunteers that we had in the state of Michigan for knocking on doors and for making the phone calls that created this kind of enormously successful night for us.
That's good.
In the last...
Yeah, you can leave it there. That's enough. You get it. Bernie Sanders went on to win. And it's as big a political upset as I've seen in a long time. The polls literally had him, like he just said, 20 and 25 points behind the last couple of days. I can assure you that apparently was not the fact, not the case. But maybe they're polling up in Marquette County or Menominee County or Delta County, Luce County, Oscoda, Crawford, Missaukee. Maybe they were off in some of these places because these are places where Bernie Sanders dominated. You get off to these counties, maybe they didn't spend time in Alcona County or in Huron County doing polling, because those are the places where Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, for that matter, did exceptionally well. But the problem with Bernie Sanders going forward, as everybody knows, even his own party, if he had one, because he's not actually a Democrat, but the people in his pretend adopted party know that his numbers don't work. Everything for free, all the time for everybody is not a political plan. It's what a 4-year-old thinks about before Christmas. The government is like a back alley dealer, peddling dependency on welfare programs that keep people hooked with little chance of breaking the cycle. The dependency that is peddled is like any addiction. It destroys self-esteem, tears families apart, victimizes children, and leaves hope in the gutter. The junkies keep crawling back, begging for more at the feet of the ruling class. Human dignity is the first specific casualty of socialism. When pride is destroyed, the masses are more easily molded to the visions of the elite and more easily create a foundation for the arrogance and opulence in the halls of power. If the oligarchs drop just enough crumbs outside the gates, then they can keep those gates closed to all but the very few and the very, very privileged. The dealers take to their podiums to demonize anyone who would challenge the system of oppression and dependence, proselytizing from the throne of power. They decry any change and any challenge as destructive to society and, of course, dangerous. Of course, dangerous for children. We must protect the children, they claim, and scream at the top of their lungs. We must protect the children from the evils of those that would demand more. We must protect the children. And we do that by stopping income inequality and taxing the rich, those evil rich. The steady march toward voluntary servitude continues to the precipice of tyranny. Demands are handed down and echoed through the streets by the mouths of the indoctrinated. It is best for all if it is worst for me. They accept this because it's what they've been taught their entire lives. I must have less so others can have more, but it never works that way. You see, because in the end, the elite, the ruling class, the oligarchs, they still occupy the high ground of their tower, where they rule with an iron fist, and you know it. So all the rainbows and unicorns of Bernie Sanders be damned, because all it is fantasy. And if he doesn't know it, you should. And if he doesn't know it, I guarantee you she does. But the problem today is We've given a root to socialism in this country. And what we tolerate today, your children will embrace tomorrow. What you allow to grow today, your children will embrace tomorrow, and therefore your grandchildren could be marching toward that voluntary servitude. I mean, my God. Has liberty eroded into the swollen, muddy ditch of human ignorance? Well, this morning it appears as if it has. The good news being the battle on the Democratic side continues. And Hillary's coronation is slowed a bit. But the system is rigged in her favor, make no mistake. She has been in the halls of power before, and she intends to be there again. And she will proselytize the evils of Bernie Sanders and the evils of Republicans alike. It's Wednesday here on the program. Thanks for dialing it in. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Brought to you in part by the Michigan 529 programs, making sure your kids and grandkids get the education they need. To learn more, go to SaveWithMI529.com. That's SaveWithMI529.com. I'll be right back.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
Well, a young man ain't got nothing in the world these days.
Yeah, that kind of anger bearing itself out at the polls here in Michigan yesterday for the primary. Yeah, the anger at the polls because there's something afoot here. Bernie Sanders was trailing by 25 points in the polls here. Are the pollsters all that bad, or is there some secret revolution coming? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. They could be that far off. The predictions on the Republican side were spot on, and on the Democratic side, recklessly misguided. But if a revolution is what they want, can you imagine the fun that we'll have with Donald Trump versus Bernie Sanders? And what's weird about that matchup is, as you've been hearing, is there's a whole group of people out there, a large group of people out there that said, well, it's either Trump or Sanders for me. My God, how do you get there? You've got a radical socialist, a borderline communist, versus a guy who is the epitome of the Wolf on Wall Street capitalist. I don't understand, except that people are sick and tired of politics as usual. In Michigan, the Republicans far outdistanced the Democrats in turnout by about 300,000 votes, from what I can tell here. That's also critical for the race come this fall. The Republicans are setting records in all sorts of places for voter turnout, while Democratic turnout continues to be weak, feeble in many places. Our next guest, Todd Wood, journalist for the Washington Times, to talk about, we'll have him weigh in on this and then so many other things. Todd, welcome back to the program. Todd, are you there? Well, let's see. You gonna try that again, Alex? See if he's there? I know we've got him there. At any rate, Todd Wood, journalist for the Washington Times, here to talk about claims of piracy near Africa, problems in the Red Sea and the Suez as well. You've also got China building global military bases in the South China Sea. Todd, are you back?
I'm back. Don't know what happened there, Steve. Good to be back.
It's okay. We'll blame aliens. Not only for your absence there, but for the attitude of voters this fall. Pretty strange. I've never seen anybody down by 25 points in polls as recently as a day or two ago come back and win anything, to be honest with you. It's unheard of what happened in Michigan concerning Bernie Sanders yesterday, but it's all a symptom, I think, of the American electorate sick of politics as usual. Well, I mean, you watch this stuff. What do you think?
I think you're spot on. On both sides, the common man has just been trampled on for a couple decades here, and this is the result. And unfortunately, on the Democratic side, they are singing the swan song of communism, and that just has never worked, but people are falling for it instead of, on the right, where you have more of a populist vision of what would help. I don't agree with everything Trump says, but he's definitely hit on something that the American worker, I think, is just feeling trampled on and angry, and that's what's happening.
Well, think about this, Todd. If you're in your mid-30s or younger, right, you were born just before or at about the time that the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, that the Cold War came, well, if not to an end, to a long pause at a minimum, right? And so you're not familiar with Stalin, and you're not familiar with Chairman Mao, and you're not familiar with all the things that went on and the people who were persecuted and murdered for having different political ideas and thoughts and comments. So you weren't subjected to that. So basically, your knowledge of socialism and communism isn't much, because they're certainly not being taught enough of that in school. They're not being taught enough history to begin with to amount to a hill of beans. So it might look good to you, and you have no reason to think otherwise because you've never seen it on TV and seen the end result of this kind of a governmental system. So young people, they embrace it because they don't know any better.
I completely agree with that statement. It's our job. If the education system's not going to do it, then us and the whatever side of the media you want to call it in, it's our responsibility to get the word out as best as possible.
So what do you see here now? I mean, here, and again, and we'll talk politics for a minute more here, and then we'll get on to some other things that you're writing about as well, but Donald Trump, big wins, and not even close in Michigan yesterday, another double-digit win, huge win in Mississippi. I mean, his biggest yet. He got about 50% of the vote in Mississippi, about 38%, I guess, in Michigan. The Trump train is rolling on, and I sat here and did some math fiddling about here a minute ago. The notion that somehow Cruz would win if everybody else was out of the race, well, if you take the other votes and give Cruz 60% of the other votes, he still doesn't beat Donald Trump. So therein lies, in Michigan at least. So this notion that somehow when Rubio, if you took every vote that Rubio got, which 125,000 Michiganders, gave them all to Ted Cruz, he doesn't win. Right. So the Donald Trump train, like it or not, is picking up speed from where I'm sitting.
Oh, he's the nominee, and unless there's some kind of palace coup that happens, in the convention. But I did an interview on Turkish television set up by because everybody in the world is interested in this, and I was against some MSNBC communist guy. I don't remember his name, but this is the whole world is watching this, and they are fascinated. But you also are starting to see other governments begin to be aware that Trump is going to change the rules, and America may just stick up for itself. So a lot of people are not happy about that.
Trump's going to change. You mean he's going to reapply the rules? If you kick America in the knee, we punch you in the nose, type thing.
Exactly. And if you're not going to take $500 billion a year from us, and you're not going to send us all your criminals, and that's just it.
Yeah, and we're not going to just squander money to send aid to countries that send us terrorists in return. Spending billions of dollars with countries that send us terrorists in return. Those sort of things do have to come to a stop. So. But there are serious things facing the United States and the world that you've been writing about recently, including the building of these military bases by China in the South China Sea. How do you see a President Trump, for the sake of argument, dealing with such a crisis?
Well, the way to deal with that, in my opinion, which I've been writing about for years, is to strengthen our economy, make our financial capability unmatchable, which can be done if we revert to our capitalist roots, and then that transforms itself into a military capability that no one can match. And that is the answer. The answer is not war. The answer is not to start some fight somewhere. The answer is to be so strong that no one would even challenge us. And I think Trump is exactly right on that.
And I've seen some things recently that made me think that even though we're weaker in some places, like our Navy and our Air Force numbers are down and we're weaker there, but I see these laser weapons that are about to roll out and these rail guns that are about to roll out. I look at American technology, at least that we're being privy to. It's pretty impressive. I mean, we're talking about serious firepower.
Yeah, and I've read about, drone swarms. I mean, there's all kind of technologies that we need to leapfrog. The Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians for a little bit have spent a lot of money trying to get to where we were 20 years ago, and we just need to leapfrog that entire technology. I think the whole carrier battle group is just like the battleship in 1935. It's too vulnerable, and we need to find the next capability.
Drone swarms. I want you to think about something. You've seen these drones that if you put the thing on your wrist, they'll follow you around. What if you throw a marker out on the battlefield and say that's your target? And here comes the drone swarm like bees. Hold on right there, Todd. We'll be right back. Todd Wood, journalist for the Washington Times, on the Steve Gruber Show on a Wednesday. We'll be right back. What a deal we've made here, Todd. I mean, this Iranian thing is, it's laughable at this point.
I just hope the American people are looking at what's going on. I mean, the president said the sanctions would snap back. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Obviously, this man just wanted to give Iran the nuke. It's just amazing and sad and sickening if you think about it. And yes, they're laughing at us. They got their $150 billion. Now they're going to make as many weapons as they can, buy as many weapons from the Russians as they can, threaten Israel, threaten the Middle East, threaten us eventually with nuclear, missiles. So there you go.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're just laughing. And we learn from the international body that's supposed to be overseeing them, as I saw this in the report yesterday. Tell me if this is true or not. The international body, by terms of the agreement that we made with Iran by way of John Kerry and Barack Obama, is the international body in charge of overseeing possible violation of the Iranians aren't allowed to tell anybody.
Yeah, just like just like the Iranians get to say if they violated the agreement or not. And they do all the testing. I mean, it's just incredibly treacherous and diabolical that our government would do this.
So what is the point of having a deal if the people that are supposed to watch the deal for violations can't tell anybody?
You can't make this stuff up,
Wait a second. So if Iran violates by terms of the agreement, they can't tell anybody they violate. Well, what the hell's the point?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, man. I tell you.
Yeah, well, the problem is the sheep are all looking at their smartphones, playing Candy Crush or whatever it is they do these days. They have no idea.
Yeah, they really don't. I mean, it's amazing. I talk to a lot of millennials out of college, and number one, they can't function in the real world. And number two, they have no idea what's going on. Absolutely no idea. I mean, they are in the dark politically and geopolitically.
Anyhow, so I mean, where do we go from here with Iran? I mean, will the next president, even a Democrat, even Hillary Clinton, be smart enough or have enough foresight to say, you know what, I don't know why we did this. This is a really bad deal. It's got to go.
Well, I think Trump has the right, outlook. You renegotiate, and that means, okay, you're not going to do what is good for our interest. We're going to cut off, your access to the U.S. dollar financial system. That's a nuclear weapon that they can use, and that's what he should do. In addition to military pressure, et cetera.
Well, there you go. So, all right. So that's a serious concern. You've got that going on. Then the other thing that I want to ask you about, Kim Jong-un, saying, you know what? Maybe we'll just fire some missiles here, nuclear missiles. We can do it. In years gone by, his grandfather and his father, that would have been saber rattling. But his grandfather, of course, came through, war. Came through and he saw war up front through, guerrilla warfare and so forth. Mm-hmm. He knows what it looked like. He knew what it looked like up front. This is a punk kid who probably also stares at his smartphone and plays with games and talks to Dennis Rodman or whatever it is he does. Mm-hmm. And doesn't have any real appreciation for the violence. And he's in this totally insulated bubble. And the more I hear about this kid...
He's surrounded by his pleasure squad.
Yeah, exactly. And sycophants and his pleasure squads. I need a pleasure squad. Anyhow, would you stop it? I'm trying to have a serious conversation. You're talking pleasure squad. Good Lord. Anyhow, how dangerous is this punk?
Very. I think you hit it on the head. He has, again, no idea of what war is like. And it's extremely dangerous. And I'll say something else. Ronald Reagan was pilloried for, bringing up the issue of Star Wars, missile defense. I remember Ronald Reagan. I mean, the left just said he was an idiot. And guess what? It was the fall of the Soviet Union, and now we have some rudimentary missile defense, at least for whack jobs like this. So that was very far-sighted 30 years ago.
No, yeah. All right, so what do you got coming up in your column? What are you covering these days? What can people find out and learn from you?
Well, thank you. My new I've got two columns at the Times. One is threat assessment, which I think you check every time we discuss
Yes, sir.
and talk on Wednesdays, and that's fantastic, which is just more short-term bites on what's happening in the world. But my column Behind the Curtain is now in print in the Times every Friday, and obviously on the website. But I'll just say to your readers, if they want to learn about what's going on in the world and have a great time at the same time, check out my books, toddwood.com, and if you want to stay up all night reading, there's some great novels there that are historical but also relate to what's happening today.
All right, I greatly appreciate that. Todd Wood, everybody. I just call you Todd, but journalist for the Washington Times. Thank you for stopping in, my friend.
Thanks so much. Talk to you next week.
There you have it. Todd Wood, everybody, and pleasure squads. That's what I got out of this conversation. He's being surrounded by his pleasure squads. Wow. We have different terms for that where I grew up, but hey, if that's the common euphemism for the day, then so it shall be. All right, still to come today, Julie Gunlock will be here, senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. She's here to talk about the feminist obsession with domesticity, but we're also going to have to talk to her about her favorite burrito shop, Chipotle, now in trouble again, and what she's going to have for lunch because she's going to be all upset she can't eat there again. Botulism, the flavor of the day, apparently. We'll be right back on the Steve Gruber Show.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me, gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Long education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, it's Wednesday, my friends. The dust has settled, but what a dust-up it was in Michigan for the Democrats. Bernie Sanders, in one of the biggest upsets that I can remember in politics. Bernie Sanders was allegedly down by 25 points coming into yesterday's primary in Michigan. Bernie Sanders walks away with a victory here, collecting 50% of the vote. Hillary Clinton picks up 48% of the vote. Bernie Sanders wins by, I guess, about 20 or 22,000 votes across the state of Michigan. Hillary, a huge upset for her bad loss. I mean, that's just a bad loss, no matter how you look at it. Donald Trump, on the other hand, picks up a win in Michigan, as expected. The battle came down to second place. Donald Trump picked up 37% of the vote. In second place, Ted Cruz with 24% of the vote. So another big double-digit win for Donald Trump here in Michigan. He also won in Hawaii and Mississippi. And in third place, John Kasich here by about a half a percentage point, 8,000 votes behind Senator Ted Cruz. So the Ohio governor put on a big rally. I mean, he just a couple of weeks ago was at 5 points in Michigan. He got to 23, 24 points in polling yesterday. But all told, if you took all of Marco Rubio's votes and gave them to Ted Cruz, he still wouldn't win. If you took all of the votes and pushed them into a pile between John Kasich and Marco Rubio and gave Ted Cruz 60% of those votes, he would not have won over Donald Trump. So there, my friends, I've laid it out for you. If you don't like Donald Trump and you're a Republican, it's probably what you're going to end up with anyway. Because right now the math is on Donald Trump's side. Now, having said that, there are a couple of things that could interrupt that process. Number one, closed primaries where only Republicans vote. Donald Trump does not nearly as well. Ted Cruz surges and wins oftentimes in those states. So when it's a closed primary, like we will have coming up next Tuesday, some of those are closed. But next Tuesday is a big deal. You've got Florida, Missouri, Ohio, and for Marco Rubio, if he doesn't win Florida, it's over. And Donald Trump has just set up camp in Florida. It's his second home, as he said last night during his press conference. In fact, let's just get a little flavor for Donald Trump. This press conference thing seems to be the way he goes now, and everybody shows up. And last night he's very calm and very gracious to the other candidates for the most part. He did say Lion Ted and Little Marco a couple of times, but for the most part, he was reasonable. Took a bunch of questions from reporters as well. Here's in part what Donald Trump had to say. Clip 1, go.
The Democrats are down 35%. They're down from what they were. We're up by 50% and even more than that. You're talking about millions of people. So I actually think it's the biggest story in politics today. And I hope that the Republicans will embrace it. Don't forget, we have Democrats coming over, very importantly. We have independents coming over, and they haven't done that ever, probably ever. And with all of these people coming over, we're going to have something very, very special. If I win and if I get to go against Hillary, polls are showing that I beat her. And some of the polls have me beating her very easily, because when you take advantage, we will take many, many people away from the Democrats, and we'll take many, many people away that normally go Democrat as independents. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that. We had people come over here who have never voted Republican, who have never even thought about it, and they came and they voted Republican. And I'll tell you another group of people that I've seen, and I'll be signing autographs after a speech, and we'll be talking to people. And I've had many, many people say, and it was a beautiful thing to hear it, Mr. Trump, I'm 67 years old. Many people. I'm 67 years old. I've never, ever voted before. I've never come close to voting before. This is the first time I'll ever vote. And that's so amazing. It's so amazing.
That's significant what he's saying there. Whether you like him or not, because there's this strange phenomenon going on, not the Trump phenomenon and not the Bernie phenomenon, but somehow, I guess we'll call them free radicals. Free radicals will go back and forth between the Trump camp and the Bernie Sanders camp. Free radicals, you like that, don't you? Because it kind of makes sense here. I've heard this several times. I heard it again this morning about a guy that voted for Trump, but said his battle was between whether he should vote for Trump or vote for Bernie Sanders. Well, whoever that guy was, he had two winners picked, at least in Michigan. And Sanders did take to the podium before Michigan had been called and made a few comments to the press. Let's get a flavor of that. This is while the counting was still going on, but he knew he was in good shape last night. Clip 2, go.
We are in the midst of a very tight race. It is not clear yet who will win this election here in Michigan. But I just want to take this opportunity to thank the people of Michigan who kind of repudiated the polls that had us 20, 25 points down a few days ago, who repudiated the pundits who said that Bernie Sanders was not going anywhere. And I want to thank the many thousands of volunteers that we had in the state of Michigan for knocking on doors and for making the phone calls that created this kind of enormously successful night for us.
There you go. And it was a successful night. He again, Hillary was up by 25 points. And I haven't seen the final numbers here, but there were reports last night that Bernie Sanders was picking up about a third of the black vote in Michigan. That would be significant. If he could do that going forward into some of the other states, he would do well. But conversely, in Mississippi, yesterday during their primary on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton took 89% of the black vote, and Bernie got 11%. So these are two very different electorates, apparently. We will keep our eye on that. Meanwhile, here's something that's going to play right into, and I will predict that Donald Trump will be talking about this today, because this plays right into his campaign theme. A man suspected in a mass shooting killing 5 people, at least 5 people, across Kansas and Missouri was arrested early this morning after an extensive manhunt, according to the Missouri Highway Patrol. That and reported to the Kansas City Star. Pablo Antonio Serrano Vitorino, arrested in Montgomery County. He is an illegal alien, a Mexican national. and he just killed at least 5 people. Immigration and Customs Enforcement said in a statement late yesterday that he's a Mexican national, was in the U.S. illegally, according to authorities. He was held at the Overland Park, Kansas Municipal Court on September the 14th, and then released. He committed 5 murders yesterday in a mass killing. An illegal alien did, and you'll hear more about that, I'm sure, from the Donald Trump campaign. 14 after on the Steve Gruber Show.
Feel good.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
Get up off of that thing.
Ha!
And dance to you.
I couldn't help it.
Get up off of that thing.
Ha! Go ahead, Julie, do it. You'll feel good about it. Yeah, you know you want to. Get up off of that thing. Julie Gunlock, welcome to it from the Independent Women's Forum. I just felt good that way. Hey, Michigan's primary's over. Guess who won?
Oh, don't start with me.
What's that sound? Is it now here? The train is coming.
I know.
And listen, I'm not advocating one side or the other. I just know that you're very not much a Trumpster, not on the Trump train. You're not a believer. I know that. But you got to start looking at the math and saying, good golly, something's going on.
Yeah, I'm in the stages of grief right now.
In denial.
I'm still in denial.
I understand.
I'm not going to pass out of denial for quite some time. But, look, I think that what I've said all along is that even though I think most women are not big Trump supporters, but I understand why why he resonates with people, why he's yesterday he talked to a reporter. I caught the tail end of his press conference where some reporter asked him about bad language, and he really gave it back to that reporter. He said, this is the kind of stuff. This is why Americans are tired of you people, and it's true. These sort of faux outrages that the press sort of manufactures.
The mealy-mouthed nonsense.
Yeah,
who cares?
He throws it right back at them. So I'm not saying I'm not completely out to lunch on this. I get his appeal. I'm just.
When my father was angry, and the air, as he put it, would turn blue with language, right?
Yeah.
I didn't. Dad, you'd be more effective if you didn't use that kind of language when talking to me. We didn't have that conversation, Julie.
Yeah.
If Dad was serious about something and he threw some colorful language out for everybody to enjoy, we knew he was serious.
Yeah, I know it's not very ladylike, but I've been known also to turn the air blue, and I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's not really. We don't have to really discuss that at length after it's over, right?
There goes my image of sweet Polly Purebred. Sweet Polly Purebred, she is not, ladies and gentlemen.
I am not, no.
All right, so I think we can agree on this. Marco Rubio it's over. I think that he has no chance of winning Florida. It looks like Trump might actually win Florida and Ohio. If that happens, there is no turning back.
Right.
John Kasich will make a fine vice presidential choice, I think. Yeah. But the big surprise, Hillary was ahead by 25 points here, all the polls said. Hillary was going to win. Hillary made Flint the centerpiece of her campaign in Michigan. Hillary lost here. Yeah. And I was reading exit polls until way too late last night, and I saw places where it looked like Bernie Sanders was picking up a third of the black vote in Michigan. Now, that is significant.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Bernie apparently doesn't think that white people can be poor. So
no, I understand.
He's sort of making an appeal, I guess, to black voters. But yeah, look, this really weakens Hillary, and going into the general, Bernie continues to really weaken her. And I think I think Republicans and Democrats are largely in the same place here. I think a lot of Republicans who aren't necessarily thrilled by a Trump nomination are sort of going, oh, geez, okay, I guess I have to, all right. And I think the Democrats are sort of the same way. I think, to some degree, Hillary was just foisted on a lot of Democrats. Oh, this is our nominee. You have no choice. I mean, look, you had O'Malley. That was the third alternative to Bernie and Hillary. So I don't think
he did play a guitar.
I don't think Democrats feel like they have a lot of great choices either. I think they felt like the party decided it was Hillary and that was it, and you're going to take your pill and swallow it.
Hold on. See, Marty used to play a guitar with no shirt on, and come on.
Oh, well.
It was really quite something. Here's something
that doesn't qualify you.
Here's something you may not have seen yet, but maybe you did, that plays right into Donald Trump's hands today, and I will guarantee you right now you'll be hearing about this later. There was a mass shooting in Kansas and Missouri last night and into early this morning. 5 people killed by a Mexican national that had been illegally, was in the country in 2004, thrown out, came back illegally, was in ICE custody in September, released in Overland Park, Kansas, Johnson County, a sanctuary city, released him back onto the public. 5 people are dead this morning as a result. Donald Trump will be, I guarantee you will hear about this today.
Yeah.
I mean, what a horrible tragedy, but there's what America is so angry about, and he has been talking about. I mean, like him or not like him, he is focused on something here that gets people's attention.
No, absolutely. Look, there is, what so many in the establishment on both sides seem to forget is that there is legitimate concerns out there that Trump is speaking to. And, when he says, I want to build a wall, people don't really, it's not that people are excited about the wall and excited about Mexico building it. It's that they like a candidate who says, I'm going to do something definitive. I am actually going to do something to deal with this problem of illegals coming over the border. Both Republicans and Democrats have been saying for years they're going to do something about this, and they never do. And then you have this guy who has such bluster and such confidence and says, yeah, he's not just going to do something. He's going to make the other guys pay for it. Look, it resonates with people, and the reason is because there's been so much inaction. And then you have things like this mass shooting. People are concerned about this, and that's a legitimate concern. And again, the establishments of both parties have been ignoring what are very legitimate concerns.
Agreed. Now, before I let you go, one more really legitimate concern.
Sure.
Unrelated topic. Well, it's kind of fun that way. The big concern at Chipotle today, salmonella again. Woohoo! Don't eat there.
I know. I don't care how many coupons they send out, man.
Good God.
Done.
Yeah, they just can't figure. But at least, hey, they're organic, right?
Yes. And no GMOs in that food. There's a little bit. There's some bugs apparently, but no GMOs. God bless.
Yeah, GMO-free bacteria at no extra charge. Good God. All right, Julie, where do they find you real quick? Where do they find you?
IWF.org.
There you have it. Julie Gunlock, get up off of that thing. All right, you have a great day.
Thanks.
Julie Gunlock, God bless her. I love her. Right here on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be back right after this.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
In a white room with black curtains near the station. Black roof country.
All right, welcome back to it. It is Wednesday, post-primary Wednesday here. Continue to take a look at that. Not the only race in town, though, were the primaries for the Republicans and Democrats running for president. No, other important things were going on as well. And one of those important things included Mary Whiteford running for the 80th State House seat, the one left behind when Cindy Gamrett was removed last fall. Mary Whiteford now on the phone. Mary, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you seem to be doing well today for sure.
Oh, I'm just so peaceful. So glad that I'm finally at the end of this marathon.
Yeah, well, you have one more part of it to go, do you not?
Just getting sworn in.
Right.
Nope, this is it.
And then there you are. and then from there, kind of settling into a new normal, if you will. Putting this whole, and I was kind of curious about this, and I wonder if you have an opinion of the Attorney General coming back and filing charges against Cindy and Todd Corser. But we all kind of thought this thing was behind us, and then it kind of gets dredged back up. What do you think of all that?
I've been working so hard just making connections in my county, I've barely paid attention.
Yeah.
And that's what people want from me. They want somebody who's going to stay positive, work hard, be there for them. And that's why they elected me, and that's what I intend to do.
Do you find, though, there's still some people that you still need to do some tidying up, mending offenses, if you will, just because of the a violation of trust that occurred in the seat that you now hold?
Well, one thing I've learned is that you're never going to make everybody happy. There's always going to be, and I saw it a couple nights ago. I went to a township meeting. There's people who are just set in their thought process. Nothing I can say or do will ever help.
Yeah,
but I tell you, I'm going to be that person. I just ran a marathon for the past 2.5 years leading up to this role. I'm going to have the same work ethic, the same attitude. You know, I'm just going to do my best. I'm going to follow my faith. I'm going to do my best to be a good voice for the people of my county. I'm going to use these people as resources, and that's what I've vowed to do throughout this whole process. And I'm just going to keep that positive attitude and strong work ethic. And I'm hoping that I'll change some people's minds, but I can't. You know, like I said, you can't make everybody happy. But I will just put that strong work ethic and positive attitude as my number one focus.
You can't change everybody's minds overnight, that's for sure. But you can work hard and work really hard to, say, stay out of the headlines?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've told everybody there are not going to be very many news bites coming out of me because I'm going to be working too hard.
Yeah, the only news bites you want are ones attached to legislation or bills that are going through or issues of the day. But you don't want to be. You don't want to be the issue of the day.
Oh no! And I've got such a wonderful family. I've been married almost 30 years to my husband, and 3 great kids and a granddaughter. And everybody was there last night, but they're always there for me through thick and thin. And that's what makes me me. Also,
well, there you go.
I stick behind them. They stick behind me. It's a family. And
so what do you see as, so besides the obvious of cleaning up the seat that Cindy Gamrett was taken out of and moving past the Todd Cindy Gamrett scandal and hopefully moving in and turning into a new chapter, what are some of your priorities as a lawmaker now? You're elected now. Now you have the support of your district, of the 80th. What are the things that you think you want to focus on?
Well, number one is having great constituent relations for the people of my district. It's been sorely lacking. So I'm putting together a really great team. And I was an ER nurse. I mean, I'm used to handling any possible situation at any moment. And that's what I'm instilling in the team that I'm hiring. I've already found one woman who's going to be working for me. And she has the same attitude. You know, what's next? Don't be complacent. Be ready to address any issue that might come up. It's a challenge. It's very rewarding to be able to help somebody through a difficult time. And so that's number one, constituent relations and being there for the people of my county. Number two, I've got so many great people. So what I've done since November is meet up with key people in my county. I've met with all the judges, all the prosecutors, the fire chiefs. We have 22 fire chiefs in my county, teachers, educators. They have issues that they're facing right now that could use a legislative fix because they're in the trenches. They see what they need. And so we're going to be working together, figuring out how we can make things work better, how we can...
You do come in at a time, though, that, Mary, we're on the line with Mary Whiteford, who is now a state rep for the 80th House District, the seat that was Cindy Gamrett's until it was taken away from her last year. But you come into your seat at a time when the governor is under fire, fairly or unfairly, for what's going on in Flint. So, you know, the contentiousness of politics never goes away. I mean, you see, you know, we're in the middle of a presidential campaign, and of course, the recall effort now against Governor Snyder, whether it gains traction or not, yet to be seen, but it's out there.
Right.
And so it's not an easy time in Lansing.
No, it never is. But like I said, there's... like in my ER training, you know, something's always going to come up, something always unexpected. Now, I'm a nurse. I've got a Bachelor of Science degree. I think, like with the Flint water issue, it's got to be science-based, fact-based. I'll do my best to get the facts on any situation that will come up. I'll do my best to use my resources in my county and the state and try to come up with a realistic and a good plan. Always have a plan is what I say.
Yeah,
so that's how I'll address things.
Yeah, be prepared, as the Boy Scouts told me long ago. All right, so you know, roads, taxes, schools, all of these things of concern, but the first thing is just cleaning the place up a little bit and getting that smell out of there. Yeah, I mean, honestly,
get in there, get great staff, have a full tank of gas all the time.
There you go.
Because I do have a really big county, and I will go anywhere in my county to help people and meet up with people.
Well, Mary,
and it's wonderful.
Well, I congratulate you on a job well done. A lot of work went into it, of course, and I think the people of your district and your county are sure ready to move on. I'm pretty sure of that. That's why I was surprised about the AG's move, because I think most people are like, you know what, we're ready to do something different than talk about this. But so it is. Congratulations on your big win, and I wish you the best. When are you up for re-election again? Does that happen immediately, or do you have some time?
We have about 7 weeks until the filing deadline for the August primary.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So you can.
Yep, and then we've got a November general.
But as far as that goes, you're not terribly tied up with that, are you? I mean, you think pretty safe road.
I'm just going to do the job the way I think it needs to be done, and I hope that people see that, and I hope that nobody decides to run against me. But if they do, I'm just going to keep doing the job I need to do, because actually that's what campaigning is: making connections, following through. And I've done it every single day since the primary, and I'm going to keep doing it now.
Mary Whiteford, again, congratulations. Thanks for taking the time, and take a breath. Take a day for yourself.
Thanks so much, Steve. Have a wonderful day.
There you have it, everybody. Mary Whiteford, the new rep for the 80th, where Cindy Gamrett used to sit. All right. If you're looking for room to grow, a new home in the country might be the choice for you, but with so many options out there, how do you know which ones are the best value? Well, Greenstone FCS is here to help. The week of March the 21st, coming up soon, Greenstone is holding a series of educational seminars on new home construction. Industry experts will cover a range of subjects, including how to make selections that add value to your home, being your own contractor, and paths to financing your project. To learn more and register, visit greenstonefcs.com/seminar. That's greenstonefcs.com/seminar. Tell them Steve sent you. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Wednesday. We'll be right back.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
All righty. Rolling it through and breaking it down for you. We'll take one quick call. Larry from Perry checking in. Larry, welcome back.
Good morning. Thanks, Steve. Real quick, the party that I've given money and time to over the years really frosts me with, they wanted to have the candidates swear an oath of fealty before they would get any support, and now that same party leadership is working overtime to stab their front runner in the back. There's just something unsavory about this.
Yeah, well, it didn't do any good anyway, and the front runner is rolling, whether they like it or not. And in fact, I was going to mention, Jeb's brother Bush, Neil Bush, joined the Ted Cruz campaign here a day or two ago. How's that working out? Anyhow, think about that, Larry. Thanks for checking in, my friend.
You're welcome.
There you have it. There's a lot of truth to that. There will be a lot of anger if there's a palace coup of some sort, or somebody tries to take away what appears to be legitimately Donald Trump's, if he wins it. If he comes up short of 1237, okay, then that's the way the rules are. But if he comes up with enough, and he has to fight not only the Democrats but the Republicans to get there, they're not doing themselves a lot of favors there. This never Trump push, I think that it's destructive. Michael Brickman, our next guest, Senior Project Director at Luntz Global Partners, and maybe you can help me with some of this. Michael, welcome back to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Obviously, a big night for Donald Trump. He wins 3 out of 4. A big win right here in Michigan for him, and a shocking win for Bernie Sanders. Let's start with that. Bernie Sanders, I mean, I don't know that I've ever looked at polls the day before an election, which we talked about even yesterday here on the program. Hillary was ahead by 25 points. I mean, the Real Clear Politics average was 21 point something, and some polls had her up even farther, and Bernie Sanders comes on to win in Michigan. How does that happen?
I mean, it's really shocking, and especially with Hillary Clinton making such a big issue of the situation in Flint. Some looked at that, I think, more on the Republican side, and felt it was a little bit unsavory that she was in that city so often, perhaps taking advantage of what is really a tragic situation there. But she really made that issue just a huge part of her campaign. She made campaigning in the state of Michigan vital to her campaign success, and as you said, came up short last night. She still has a much brighter road to victory as we continue to move through these states. She still has a pretty sizable lead in delegates. Interestingly, she won the small state last night, Mississippi, which is only worth about 35, 36 delegates. Michigan was worth almost 100 more delegates. Bernie Sanders had the huge upset win, and yet guess who won more delegates? Hillary Clinton by about 20 last night, at least. We don't know the full results just yet, but she's still winning more delegates even when Bernie Sanders has a big night like he did last night. So certainly you can look at the Republican side, and there's definitely a lot, no matter who you're supporting, that you can kind of quibble with when it comes to the Republican process, but it's nothing compared to how they do things over on the Democratic side.
So Hillary loses, but she wins anyway, is basically what you're telling me on that. So, okay, that's fine. So let's look at this other thing, this whole phenomenon for the past few days on the Republican side, because I want to know how it's playing with the people that you talk to. At Lunch Global, obviously, you're in the business of taking people's temperature. You figure out what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what makes them happy, what makes them sad. That's what your company does, right? So let's talk about Mitt Romney a little bit in his full frontal assault, robocalls, and everything he can possibly do to try to, take on Donald Trump. Multiple billionaires got behind Marco Rubio, in the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Rubio came in fourth everywhere. His campaign is effectively over. He's not going to win Florida, I'll tell you that right now. The question is who will. Right now, Trump's running ahead in Florida. Trump's actually winning in Ohio, so John Kasich, his hope, he came close to getting second in Michigan, which would have been a big deal for him. He's in third. Ohio's in trouble. The math is there for Trump, but this whole establishment attack coming from Mitt Romney and others, I think it's giving Trump a boost, and that's what I said. The moment I saw Romney do that, I said, that's going to help Donald Trump. Am I right or wrong?
I think you're right, and one of the just most puzzling things of this entire campaign cycle is it seems like the more you attack Trump, no matter who it is, no matter what you're saying, the stronger he gets. There are very few attacks, very few things that you can say that will give Trump supporters pause, whether it's his attack on John McCain, whether it's some of his questionable business deals in the past. There's almost nothing that will make a Trump supporter say, well, I don't know about that so much. And what's interesting is, and you were talking with the caller just a moment ago about the delegate math and how this turns out. Certainly Trump has a lead right now, and it's a growing lead. He has about a 100-delegate lead on the Republican side of things over Ted Cruz. And while Ted Cruz is picking off a state here and there, Donald Trump continues to have a good night, as he did last night, again and again and again. And what will really be interesting, as you alluded to, is what happens next Tuesday. If John Kasich loses his home state of Ohio, if Marco Rubio loses his home state of Florida, where really, even with the results last night, and Marco Rubio is campaigning in Florida, the robocall that you alluded to from Mitt Romney, I believe, was in Florida. So really, that's where Marco Rubio feels like he can really do well, where he's going to make a stand, and we'll find out if that pays off for him, if it pays off for John Kasich. No. If not, things start to get really interesting, because right now you have a situation where Trump does not have a majority of the delegates that have been handed out so far. So if you see the other delegates as kind of going in the anti-Trump pile, there is a possibility there. But let's be clear. It is a very, very narrow margin.
Very narrow.
Trump, while he doesn't have a majority, has maybe 45% of the delegates. So it's not 50, but he's getting very close. And if you have a candidate or two drop out, it's very easy to see how he gets to 50% and starts to
really easy. In fact,
yet to come.
1.3, 1.4 million Republican votes in Michigan yesterday. If you took Kasich and Rubio's votes and divided them and gave Cruz 60% of those, he would still lose by a mile to Donald Trump. Anyhow, Michael, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Michael Brickman from Lunch Global Partners. There you have Breaking It Down. More after this on The Steve Gruber Show.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is The Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me, gonna quit until it all comes
Hey, boy.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, and welcome to it, my friends. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Wednesday. I'm going to dispel a couple of myths for you here right off the get-go, all right, just so we have an understanding of how big the Trump win was here in Michigan yesterday over all comers. First of all, then we'll talk about the Bernie Sanders huge upset win over Hillary Clinton. Now, some suggesting that maybe Republicans crossed the street to vote for Bernie. Couldn't be. 1.4 million Republicans turned out, 1.1 million Democrats. So the GOP, somewhere of 250,000 or more additional voters than the Democrats had. So there is part of your problem. There's an enthusiasm gap. That's number one. Now, in the raw votes totals, Donald Trump got about 480,000, just over 480,000 votes yesterday. Ted Cruz picked up 328,000 votes. All right, so the difference between the two is, 150,000 plus vote is the difference. So 150,000 plus separating. Donald Trump's win wasn't even close, all right? So the argument from the Cruz camp has been the whole time, well, wait a second. If it was head-to-head, we would win. If it was head-to-head, we'd win because the polls show that, I would beat Donald Trump in a head-to-head matchup. Well, let's think about that. John Kasich almost beat Ted Cruz. He came in less than 1 point behind him for a third-place finish with 320,000 votes. Marco Rubio, 123,000. So that's 443,000 votes between Kasich and Rubio. All right, let's take those and award Ted Cruz 60% of those, a 20-point win over Donald Trump in the remaining votes. He would still lose. His total would be 593,000. Donald Trump would still have a 70,000 vote lead, even if Cruz took 60% of the remaining votes. Donald Trump still wins in a head-to-head matchup in Michigan. And I'm doing this for mathematical purposes. I have not decided, I don't know who's going to come up on top here in the end. I don't know who's going to come up on top here in the end. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. I voted for one of those four people, I can tell you that. I did not vote for Hillary or Bernie, I can assure you of that. I voted for one of the four people on the leaderboard. If you wonder, though, you look at like George Pataki got like 1,000 votes. Who voted for George Pataki? I mean, do you really screw it up so badly that you vote for a guy who was a non-factor from the get-go? Anyhow, let's see here. Even at 70% of the vote, it seems that Ted Cruz would not win. Would not win, even if he took 70% of the remaining vote. He'd have, of all the votes left that went to Kasich and Rubio. If Cruz got 70% of those votes, he would not win. Not in Michigan, anyhow. He'd be at 638. And Trump would just edge him out. So, I don't know what to tell you about this whole notion that somehow if it was a head-to-head matchup, that Cruz would win. Just doesn't seem to be the case. Doesn't seem to be the case. I'm just letting you know that Cruz would have to win about 75% of the remaining voters to catch. In Michigan, he would have to catch up. All right. So Donald Trump took to the podium last night. He sounded conciliatory. He called for the party to unify behind him. He also showed off Trump steaks, Trump wine, Trump water, and Trump magazines to say, Mitt Romney, I don't know what you're talking about, but here are all the products I have, and they're all doing quite well. He talked about his vineyard in Virginia for some period of time. Anyhow, a quick taste of Donald Trump during a press conference in Jupiter, Florida just last night after knowing that he won Michigan and Mississippi. Go.
The Democrats are down 35%. They're down from what they were. We're up by 50% and even more than that. You're talking about millions of people. So I actually think it's the biggest story in politics today. And I hope that the Republicans will embrace it. We have, don't forget, we have Democrats coming over, very importantly. We have independents coming over, and they haven't done that ever, probably ever. And with all of these people coming over, we're going to have something very, very special. If I win and if I get to go against Hillary, polls are showing that I beat her. And some of the polls have me beating her very easily, because when you take advantage, we will take many, many people away from the Democrats, and we'll take many, many people away that normally go Democrat as independents. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that. We had people come over here who have never voted Republican, who have never even thought about it, and they came and they voted Republican. And I'll tell you another group of people that I've seen, and I'll be signing autographs after a speech, and we'll be talking to people. And I've had many, many people say, and it was a beautiful thing to hear it, Mr. Trump, I'm 67 years old. Many people. I'm 67 years old. I've never, ever voted before. I've never come close to voting before. This is the first time I'll ever vote. And that's so amazing. It's so amazing.
And that is part of the strategy, of course. Part of the strategy that Donald Trump is preaching is the fact that he can bring crossover to the party. And here's another phenomenon that maybe you can help me with, because I don't understand it. I don't see the logic of people that are torn between voting for Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump. And you hear that, well, fairly often, actually. These are the polar opposites of the world. A guy that's on the cusp of communism. I mean, democratic socialism, make no mistake, the government should be in charge of running businesses and dictating to businesses what their profit margins will be, what they pay employees, so on and so forth. That is the mindset, right? That is the mindset. And then you've got Donald Trump, who is, the ultimate capitalist, building things and charging money and making a huge profit. So how can you be torn between Bernie Sanders on one side and Donald Trump on the other, unless you're just so angry about everything that's going on that you feel that it's time to do something completely different. And that's why I think we have arrived. I think that's where we have arrived. Meanwhile, there was a mass killing yesterday that I think will play right into Donald Trump's hands, by the way. Mass killing. I'll get to that in just a second. First, I want to jump on the hotline here. Chris in Kalamazoo joining us. Chris, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve. Well, Trump certainly got it. I worry, as a person who votes Republican, how many Republicans are going to stay home. He does get crossover votes, and he is getting a lot of young votes. I just worry that
any Republicans that stay home. Any Republicans that stay home and would actively allow Hillary Clinton an easy path to the White House should be ashamed of themselves. That happened in 2012, and it's unacceptable.
Sure, 2008.
Yeah.
I mean, both.
Yeah, they should be ashamed of themselves because they might as well then vote for Hillary as opposed to staying home. Chris, thank you for checking in. Back in a moment on The Steve Gruber Show.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
Trucking, got my chips cashed in, keep trucking, like the Doodah Man, together, more or less in line, just keep trucking.
All right, welcome back to it. Sorting it out here the day after the Michigan primary. Like I said, big win for Donald Trump, and the notion that if John Kasich and Marco Rubio get out of the race, that Ted Cruz would win by his. Ted Cruz says that. Well, Ted Cruz would have to take it. In Michigan anyhow, would have had to take 70% of the votes of Kasich and Rubio. 70% of those votes would have had to come to him for him to win. I find that unlikely. The point being is Trump is a stronger candidate, at least in open primaries, than you'd be led to believe. Our next guest, Congressman Bill Huizenga, he has a take on it as well. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Hey, good to be with you, Steve.
So, all right, what do you make of it? A big win for Donald Trump again. He wins 3 out of 4. He wins Michigan, Mississippi, Hawaii, and Ted Cruz wins in Idaho. But Michigan, the big prize of the evening, goes resoundingly to Donald Trump.
Well, and interestingly enough, in West Michigan, I was just reviewing the numbers. Cruz won one of my counties, Lake County, the smallest county, and Cruz cleaned up on everywhere else. I talked to one of my other colleagues this morning, or we were texting actually back and forth over on the east side, and he said that Trump took all of his counties except for one that Cruz took. So I can only speak on the West Michigan side, and this is what I heard consistently, was that people still here in West Michigan are not convinced that Donald Trump is the guy. They don't like his attitude or his crassness or whatever they might have. Kasich definitely surged here. He was number 2 in a number of my counties. But Cruz, in my area, Cruz had the night. Trump was in 3rd in most of the counties, and so I think it'll be interesting. I think that what that says to me, trying to put my political scientist hat on, is much like maybe in 1992 with Perot. You've got some independent-minded, conservative Democrat types who are pro-life, like to hunt, like their gun, those kinds of things. That's my family. My mom's a good Irish Catholic girl from Flint. And they're looking around going, Bernie Sanders, seriously? I'm not going that direction. Hillary, I've had enougth of that.
Well, I had a guy...
like where Trump's going.
I had a guy call me in full-on panic on Monday, and he's been a friend of mine for years, and I don't think I ever really talked politics with him. He said, I don't know what to do. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, my family's been lifelong Democrats. And he goes, and I can't vote for her. He didn't even consider Bernie an option. He said, I can't vote for her. He said, if she was the last candidate standing, I can't vote for her. I said, what are you going to do? He goes, I guess I'm going to vote for Republican for the first time in my life. I mean, it was a very strong feeling. And for Hillary Clinton, make no mistake, the Republicans had like 1.3, 1.4 million voters yesterday. The Democrats, 1.1 million. So the Republicans, at least 250,000 more voters, maybe a little bit stronger than that. So strong turnout for the Republicans. There's no enthusiasm. And like it or not, Congressman, convinced or not, Ted Cruz lost by, double digits, lost by 160,000 votes. And that's not even with, 400,000 people weighing in as far as those two candidates. It was a big disparity. Donald Trump walked away with this deal.
Yeah, and I think that what we're talking about, like with your friend or some of my family members, that might be accounting for that. And frankly, how else an unenthusiastic support of Hillary, and how else does, frankly, Bernie Sanders in Ottawa County, the most conservative county in the state, my home county, he beat her 2-1. 2-1.
Well, I know.
And so, if you are a dedicated Democrat, you are going out and voting for Bernie Sanders. You're not excited about Hillary Clinton, and if you couldn't handle either of those, you came over and voted in the Republican primary in all likelihood for Donald Trump, which I think increased some of those numbers. So,
which brings us to the next point.
This is going to be a fascinating one.
Yeah, Marco Rubio's campaign is like it or not, pretty well over. I don't see him winning in Florida. In fact, Donald Trump may win in Florida, his second home. John Kasich came really close to picking up a second-place finish in Michigan. He didn't. Makes it a tough road for him. Right now, Trump has a clear lane. What I was going to say is, do you really think that Ted Cruz, if he were the nominee, could carry Michigan? I believe Donald Trump could. I'm not convinced that Ted Cruz could, based on the numbers that I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I'm not sure as everybody's kind of sifting through all those. I think it is it's wide open yet. Does Cruz fits West Michigan more so than Trump does? But if you look at that Macomb County, Western Wayne County, Oakland County, Monroe County, I think there's going to be a lot of number crunching as people are going in and going through that. But then the trade-off is, and I'm hearing this from a lot of people in West Michigan, is they simply can't or won't go out and vote for Trump. So where do those numbers sort of trade off? I don't think
they say that
sort
now,
of
but
unifying
I wonder.
Ronald Reagan kind of message that he's got.
They say that now, but I wonder. And you say Monroe County. Donald Trump took 41% of the vote there. Kasich second, Cruz a distant third. In Wayne County, Donald Trump 41% of the vote. Kasich at 27, Cruz back at 18. So you look at some of those counties, and then in Washtenaw County, John Kasich came out on top. Donald Trump second, Cruz third. See, so it's very weak territory for, and that's why I wonder. Ted Cruz, the favorite of conservatives and the CPAC folks, but where do we really end up? So I guess my question, last question this morning, Congressman, if it's going to be Donald Trump, can the people that say never Trump and so forth, and a lot of folks that have come out against him, can they bury the hatchet? Can they get behind this candidate?
That's a very good question. Lots of conversations are happening, and I think one of the main things, and I think you and I have talked a little bit about this, one of those main things for a lot of us is what's going to happen at the Supreme Court. That has lifelong effects, and we know where Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton would go with those appointments. Little less sure of where Donald Trump would go versus a Ted Cruz or
Ted Cruz, that's
the other candidates. So.
We know what Ted Cruz would do with the Supreme Court. That's one very strong thing, but we don't know. But we'll keep watching it. Congressman, I wish we had more time. Congressman Bill Huizenga, always a pleasure.
Hey, good being with you, Steve. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Back in a moment on the Steve Gruber Show.
Covering Michigan and the world from his bunker below the bridge. Here is Steve Gruber.
Welcome back to it, my friends. Doing the post-mortem on the Michigan primary. Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, the big winners here in Michigan. Bernie Sanders, quite the surprise, by the way. Ted Cruz hangs on to second place for the Republicans. But barely. John Kasich almost nipped him in the end. Tomas on the line in Grand Rapids now on the hotline. By the way, you can join in 888-900-9966. Tomas, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mr. Gruber, thanks for the opportunity. You know, a lot of people are hoping that they can stop Cruz or Trump in the brokered convention. I personally would love to see them try and do that, because it would be more publicity for the Republican nominee, and Trump would just eat that up. I mean, Democrats would go crazy because, it would be Republican convention 24/7. It would be like Trump time all the time.
Trump TV,
can you imagine?
Yeah, well, he can imagine, I'm sure of that. So who did you support yesterday?
I was supporting Trump, and at first I supported Cruz, but Trump is like, he's got more fire. And that's what the American people want, is that they don't want any more politicians. We sent politicians, we gave them the House, they didn't do anything. We gave them the House and the Senate, and they still didn't do anything. And this includes, Cruz and Rubio, who are in the Senate, Republicans, they're put there, and did they do anything except, talk all night long when the place was empty and call it a filibuster? So I'm going to go with Trump, and I would love to see him fighting in a brokered convention. It would be, ratings would go. It would make Chicago 1968 look like a slumber party.
Yeah, look a little tame.
That's all I got to say.
All right, Tomas. Tomas, thank you so much. Yeah.
All right.
Make the Chicago Democratic Convention look mild by comparison. Well, I don't know about that, but I think he's right. The ratings would be through the roof. Jeff on the hotline, the Common Sense hotline in Lansing. Jeff, welcome to it.
Good morning, Steve. It's counterintuitive to think a conservative would vote for Bernie Sanders, but I was in the yard yesterday, and a friend on his way to vote stopped by, and while he would never vote for a Democrat in the general election, he said he was voting for Sanders. Well, it turns out he has the same fantasy I do of one of these evenings on the evening news, watching Hillary walked off in handcuffs. And, of course, Bill would be over on the side with a smile on his face and a couple of young ladies hanging on him.
Yeah, his hand up somebody's skirt, probably. Huh? You'll have that.
I have a couple of millennial neighbors been canvassing for Sanders, and not long ago they were incredulous that anybody could like Trump, but they're opening up to Trump now.
It's weird, isn't it? The people that support Bernie, also some, not all, obviously, but there's a section of that group that if Bernie gets the shaft, because it's rigged right now. I mean, with these because Bernie wins big yesterday, and Hillary got more delegates yesterday. That's my understanding. Hillary picked up more delegates yesterday, even though Bernie Sanders won the big prize of Michigan. Hillary comes out with more. It's rigged, boys and girls, and everybody knows it. Thanks for checking in, Jeff.
Yeah, that's the key, because they realize it's rigged and it's corrupt, and that's why they might go for Trump.
Exactly. All right, Mike is on the line in East Lansing now. Mike, welcome to it.
Well, I've decided I think that if Ambassador Stevens comes out and endorses Hillary, then that's who I'm going to support. How can you turn down an endorsement like that?
Well, there you go.
I voted for Cruz, and I just wish that these people, Republicans in 8 debate, just stop hammering on each other and start hammering on the emails and what's going on with this and what she did as Secretary of State, and quit beating the crap out of each other and start beating the crap out of Hillary. And just remember, Bernie Sanders represents a part of the political spectrum that my father bombed in World War II.
No question. Mike, let me ask you this, though.
Insulting. Yes,
if Trump's the nominee, can you support him?
100%. I might even write a check. I told these SOBs at the Republican Party to quit asking for money. I said, you funded Obamacare, you funded the amnesty, you passed all the budgets after you did all these fake votes to fund Obamacare, but when the rubber hit the road, I said, you supported it and you funded it. I said, until I can get somebody in there that's going to stop doing this tomfoolery and stop running up our debt, not another penny. But yeah, I'd be behind Trump, and I might even write him a check. He doesn't need it.
Well, you could buy one of his steaks or a bottle of wine. Thanks, thanks, Mike. I greatly appreciate it. All right, Trump wine, Trump steak. That's how you support him. John is on the line in Portage. John, welcome to the program. John, are you there?
I am here. I didn't know you clicked me on, but thank you very much. You were talking about the Yale incident. The Trump campaign is indicative of the anger of men with regards to what's happening to young men in colleges and what have you. What I see over here in Kalamazoo County is traditional males, very traditional males, are supporting Trump at a high number. In fact, in Kalamazoo County in this election, 72% of people voted conservative in the Republican side, and only 27% voted moderate to liberal. The conservative vote, of course, was Trump, Cruz, and Rubio, putting them all in the same basket. They got 72% of the vote. They used the same argument against Ronald Reagan that they're using against Trump. He's a Democrat. He doesn't do things the way they want. They just want to keep their power. They're just trying to impose their will on us. That's all they're trying to do. John, I think you've identified an important point here, though, that I've talked about on this program many times, including the thing from Yale, and that is that young men are under attack in this country. This notion of this culture of rape, this notion of men, misogyny, and men, get paid more. General men in general are under siege in America. So what you're saying is real men are voting for Trump. Cowboys, plumbers, carpenters, educated people that, are roll up your work, go to work men are voting for Donald Trump. And that's an interesting dynamic, John. Thank you for talking about that. Have a great day, Steve. All
right, the hotline remains open. We got room for a couple of more calls. What are your thoughts post-mortem on the Michigan primary? We can fit a couple more in. 888-900-9966. Now, coming tomorrow, we're talking about a few things that I haven't been able to get to this week so far that are important you need to hear about. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back.